Great. So it's worthwhile to check with the rest of the audience too, so that we don't end up like last week.
Yes, let me just check. Yeah, we already have someone posted in the questions. The audio is fine this time.
Okay,
But
great.
thank you so much for letting us know.
Great. I'll kickstart then. Thanks, Dan. Let me just find my presentation here. Great. Welcome, everyone. Thanks, Dan, for giving the opportunity to present at the PASS Business Analytics Virtual Group. And today, I think the topic for this month is SQL Server Reporting Services 2017. I think with the 2016 reporting services, we had a whole heap of new features that was available. So with 2017, there are a bit more additional features that has been introduced. So I thought it is a good opportunity for me to just share that with the wider community. And yeah, that's what we'll be looking at in today's session. So my name is Anupama Natarajan. So you can call me as Anu. And I currently live in Wellington, New Zealand. So if I look at my time, it's 6 a.m. here in New Zealand. So I work as a senior solutions architect at Unisys, New Zealand. So I have around 15 plus years experience. So my experience span across, I started as a web developer, then moved on into data warehousing and business intelligence, and also worked in a lot of integration related projects. So my passion is more around the data, and it's just understanding the data and how do we make sure that we expose the data in a fashion that it is adding value for the business, and also like in terms of building some reports and dashboards and assisting for the business community. So my expertise is pretty much in around the Microsoft technologies. And if you have any questions after this presentation, and if you want to reach me, reach out to me, then pretty much you can either contact me over my LinkedIn or my blog or my Twitter handle. And last but not the least, I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. So I do run some training sessions, but I'm not a full-time trainer. Instead, I do that as a part-time activity. And the reason is I like to share my real-world experience as part of my training. And so pretty much I do a lot of consulting for that reason. Great. So the agenda for today's session is pretty much around understanding what's really new in reporting services. And a lot have been discussed, I think, around June this year, around Power BI Report Server, Power BI Premium. So even though like this session is more focused on SQL Server Reporting Services 2017, I'll just touch a bit around Power BI Report Server and how does that it compares with SSRS 2017, what is supported in SSRS versus what is supported by Power BI, and where the thinking for Microsoft is around. I don't currently work for Microsoft, so all my knowledge around where their roadmap and stuff is what I find from their blogs and with the people I network with. And finally, we have got around the REST API for reporting services. So if you can recollect with the previous versions of reporting services, there was a web service that was available, but it was a SOAP-based web service. And now Microsoft have released a REST version of the API for reporting services with 2017. And it's worth having a look at it because now you can directly integrate with that API and add more power or functionality to your applications. And finally, we'll look at around VS 2017 and the MSBuild support for the same. So if you have any questions, as Dan mentioned, please post the questions, and probably in the last 5 to 10 minutes, I'll just try and answer them. And if I can't provide an answer, probably I'll take the question back and post the response on my blog. Great. So what's new in SSRS 2017? So the first thing is around installation. So if you have looked until SSRS 2016, the SQL Server Reporting Services installation is actually bundled with your SQL Server installation itself. So you just have to run your SQL Server installer, and part of that is you choose an option of saying like I want to install reporting services, and it gets installed. But with 2017, they have totally changed the installation method for SSRS. So now you have got a lightweight installer. So you pretty much, when you run the installer, you know exactly you are installing SSRS 2017. So you don't have that heavyweight lifting of that installer anymore. And in order to get SSRS 2017, there is references section at the end of this PowerPoint slide where there is a link available where you can download SSRS 2017 if you want to try it. The next point to note as part of the installation is with the previous versions of reporting services, you had two options. One is whether you want to install reporting services in native mode or you want to install it on the SharePoint integrated mode. So with this new version, there is no SharePoint integrated mode or anything. So it doesn't mean Microsoft have dropped supporting reporting services in SharePoint. Instead, they just support the native mode currently, but still you should be able to embed those reports inside your SharePoint. And we'll talk about that in the subsequent slides. So just to understand around the installation mode, currently it's only the native mode is supported, but still you can embed your reports in SharePoint. So the third one, the feature which really I think everyone has been waiting for, and personally I have been waiting for a long time, because pretty much each of the client I have worked with, they want, one of their key requirement is the ability to add some comments against their reports. And also, like when they publish a report, they want to pass it on to their team members, and they want to get the feedback about whether their sales revenue has gone up or down and what are the reasons for that, and they want to be able to track all those comments using the reports. I think this is one of the key requirement for every, I would say, like a RFP or anything that I have worked on when it comes to reporting services. And this was one of the limitation that we had in the previous versions. But currently, comments, or currently you can add comments to reports, and historically you can maintain the comments also. And also you have the ability to attach documents or something as part of the commands itself. So I'll briefly show a demo of how can you add that once I cover off the rest of the features. So that's an important feature with reporting services, which will be really handy for a lot of business users, especially if they send the reports asking for feedback and stuff. Now, instead of triggering emails or something, they can maintain the information or the feedback getting from other business users through this commands channel. The next option is, I don't know how much of you have notified in the SSRS 2016 portal. There is a link that is available where you can download all the different tool sets. Like if I want to download Power BI desktop or something, then I can just go there and just click on it, and automatically it allows to download. But when you're working in corporate or enterprise environments, pretty much they want to control people installing softwares directly onto their laptops or desktops. In order to avoid that, we didn't have that functionality to hide that menu, download menu at all in the previous versions. I think currently now you have the ability to decide whether you want to show or hide the ability of that download item. So which means you can prevent users downloading software that is not allowed in your corporate environment or something. And finally, we will touch upon the report viewer for ASP.NET and SharePoint. So I think there is a lot of discussions or questions I have already started receiving around ASP.NET MVC, ASP.NET Core, and so on. So as part of going through this, we will touch upon what currently Microsoft are supporting, and in my personal view, what I feel like where they are going towards, and what we need to be start thinking about when we are designing any new applications where you need the ability to embed reports or use reports for operational purposes. But for existing applications, I'll just show what are the different options available from a report viewer perspective. Great. So I think before we jump on to that, I just wanted to cover some of the features I talked here around commands and how do we show or hide the download menu. So let
Oh, Anu, are you still there? I just lost audio on you. Anu? You still there? Can't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Now you're back.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Sorry. Thanks.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my audio stuff here, but I think it's good that I'm back.
Perfect. Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Just to yeah, sorry, Dan. So can you just confirm that you can see my reporting services screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. So this is actually an installation of SSRS 2017, and I have just downloaded the AdventureWorks branding that was provided. And again, this branding information is also available at the end of the references section in the PowerPoint slide. So what I have got here is a couple of folders where I have got some mobile reports and Power BI reports. So first thing is we'll look at, so this is the download menu I was talking about. So as you can see here, this provides the ability for the users to download the mobile report publisher, the report builder, or the Power BI mobile application. So sometimes, as I said, like people want to lock it down. They don't want their employees to download software without getting, normally it gets pushed through their enterprise application. So they don't want ad hoc downloads of these software. So in order to do that, pretty much what you can do now is you can connect to your reporting services instance. So here I have connected to my reporting services instance. You can right click under properties and advanced. So if you scroll down here, so there is a link here which shows your download URLs. One second. Here. So if you can see here, like show download menu. So this option is currently set as true. So you can just set it as I don't want to show my download menu to my users. Just click on here and refresh at your end here. And as you can see, automatically the menu gets disappeared. So this is quite easier to maintain the configuration. So as I mentioned, it's under your advanced properties of your reporting services instance. So pretty much you can just change it here, and there is no need for a restart or anything at this point. So that's one of the feature. The second feature we talked about is around comments. So I have got a series of mobile reports here. So for any particular report, you can click on the report, and as you can notice here, you are seeing a comment section. So you click on the commands, pretty much you can start typing a comment here. So it's sales have gone up this year. Good job, team. So I can post a comment, and as you can see, the comments just gets displayed, and also like I can see all the historical comments that I have added. And there is an ability also to attach files. So if you want to just to take a screenshot and highlight something and upload it, and you have the ability to do that as part of adding the comment, you can also reference some screenshots as part of it. So this is one of the key feature, I think, which I was mentioning. There is a lot of interest in the community, especially around the business users, the ability to circulate their reports and get the feedback from them. Great. So that's the second feature I wanted to show. And as per, I think these features are already available as part of SSRS 2016, which is the ability for you to just upload a Power BI report also. So nothing has been changed in this space. With 2017, you still have the ability to upload Power BI reports and use it. And you can also open a Power BI report. The only thing is around Power BI reports is you need to have Power BI desktop installed on that machine. So if your clients or if you're publishing your Power BI reports using the SSRS 2017 portal, the consumers or the people, the clients should have the Power BI desktop installed on their machines. Otherwise, they won't be able to open these reports. And this is where the difference between SSRS 2017 and the Power BI report server comes into play. So we can quickly jump on to the slides to look at those features, because it's the right time for us to start comparing this. Great. So we are back onto the slides now. So where we are going to look at what are the differences between SSRS 2017 versus the Power BI report server. So Power BI Report Server is something that was announced back in June this year. And so when they released SSRS 2016, Microsoft also released something around a preview version back in January. So the preview version, what it allowed people to do is they can upload Power BI reports in the SSRS portal, but there was a dependency earlier when they released it 2016 where you have to have the Power BI desktop installed on the client machines to open those reports. Because these Power BI reports were not rendered within the browser, it is still the reliance was dependent on the Power BI desktop. But with the January 2017 preview release, they just introduced a standalone version of reporting services. And at that time, that preview release, what it gave the ability for you is to render the Power BI reports within the browser itself. So if you had the SSRS browser, pretty much you can render the Power BI reports within the browser without the need for a Power BI desktop installation. So that was in the preview release, and everyone's understanding was this will be now included as part of SSRS 2017, and that's where I think their strategy has changed in June. So instead of embedding that feature in SSRS, actually they have introduced something called as Power BI Report Server. So if you look at the what are the features of Power BI Report Server is, it is built on the same platform as SSRS, and it is now considered as a superset of reporting services. So Power BI Report Server is what it can do is it can do what SSRS can do, along with, in addition, it has some additional features. For instance, like it can do the paginated reports like SSRS, it can do the mobile reports like SSRS, and you also have the ability to upload the Power BI reports similar how you can upload it in an SSRS. The only key difference here is with Power BI Report Server, you don't need to have the Power BI desktop installed. So where the Power BI reports can be rendered within the SSRS browser window itself. While with SSRS 2017, we still require the Power BI desktop installed. So that's a key difference between these two versions, and that we need to really understand. So going forward, if you want to move into Power BI Report Server from SSRS to Power BI Report Server, there is a migration path that Microsoft are providing, and that's available. But it doesn't mean I'm not about to say that SSRS is going to disappear or anything. Currently, what they are saying is if you need the Power BI, like what I say, the capability inside SSRS, and you want to have, you don't want to have the reliance of Power BI desktop being installed, pretty much you need to go down Power BI Report Server path. But if you're not concerned about your Power BI reports, instead your organization focus is still around paginated reports or mobile reports, you can still stay around with the SSRS 2017 itself. So this is something to keep in mind. This is the key difference between SSRS 2017 and Power BI Report Server. So this is just quite a good comparative slides around the features. So what's available with reporting services and Power BI Report Server and Power BI Service. I think everyone knows about Power BI Service. Pretty much this is the service that is available on the cloud. This is not on premises. But both SSRS and Power BI Report Server, they are on-premise solutions. So if you look at here, like reporting services can support paginated reports. It can support mobile reports, which is pretty much the DataZen version before. And from a license perspective, it is embedded as part of your SQL Server license. And the feature updates is all part of the SQL Server release cycle. So that's your reporting services features. Nothing has changed other than few new additional features have been incorporated. With Power BI Report Server, you have the ability for Power BI reports. And if I talk about this, this is more about browsing the Power BI reports within the SSRS portal. So still SSRS 2017 supports Power BI reports, but you need to depend on the Power BI desktop installer. And also, along with Power BI reports, Power BI Report Server also supports paginated reports and mobile reports. And in terms of the licensing model, it ties with both either with your SQL Server, if you have an enterprise license, or your Power BI Premium. So again, Power BI Premium is a separate licensing model they have introduced as part of Power BI. So feature updates, again, it's every month. That's what the feature updates that we are getting from a Power BI perspective. And lifecycle policy is pretty much the modern lifecycle policy, which is the frequent updates and how do we handle those updates. And finally, Power BI service. This is a cloud-based service, and okay, pretty much this is not an on-premises one, so you can still create your dashboards and reports using your Power BI desktop and pretty much publish it on the cloud for your consumers to consume it or share it. Great, so that's just a single picture that gives you differences between the different parts of reporting services, Power BI report server, and Power BI service. Great. So the next important feature that came as part of SQL Server reporting services is around the REST API. So if you remember, like I don't know how many of you have interacted with the previous version of the reporting services web service. So reporting services had a SOAP web service, which is actually a WCF service that allowed you to connect to the service and extract information out of your reporting services environment. Like you can just get access to a particular report or the data set or things. So that was already available. But I think Microsoft have now released a modern REST-based API. So that has given the same along with some additional features, but the main part here is it's no longer a SOAP API, it's more a RESTful API. So it gives you the programmatic access that you can navigate through your folders, your reports, your KPIs, your data sources, your data sets. You can do refreshing of your reports through the API, as well as you can configure your subscriptions and everything. So pretty much whatever you can do via the SSRS portal, pretty much you can do that in a programmatic manner using the REST API. So you can navigate through the folder hierarchy, you can discover the contents of the folder, or also you can you have the ability to download a particular report definition. So this is one of the options you can even use if you want to embed reports rather than an out-of-the-box feature. If you want to go down the path, you can just still use your REST API to embed reports into your applications. So I'll just quickly show you the REST API. One second. Great. So this is the reporting services REST API. So this is the documentation for that on Swagger Hub. So Swagger is basically an easier way that allows you to test your REST APIs. So if people haven't heard about Swagger before, and so this URL actually gives you Swagger Hub is a complete documentation set of the API. So along with testing the API, you can also have a good documentation of around what are the endpoints that are exposed in the API and how do I use it. So as you can see here, there is a whole heap of endpoints that has been exposed as part of the REST API for reporting services. Pretty much you can invoke any of these endpoints, which in turn is connected to your reporting services instance, and you can retrieve the information out of that. So there is a whole heap of around navigating through your folders, KPIs, any link to reports that you have got, mobile reports. So if I want to just pull a particular mobile report and render, I should be able to do that. And your paginated reports and any other resources that we have got in here, your subscriptions, like what are the reports people have subscribed to and other things. So this is a really handy thing, and what you can also do is you can try out any of your operations by just using a tryout. So basically you can put the parameters like as they have mentioned here, so you know what your request and response will be. So this will be your response. If it is a successful response, your response will contain this JSON information. And finally, like if there is an error, which is a 400 or a 404, probably what your JSON response for the error message will also be provided here. So it is worth for giving a try and see, like if you are planning to embed reports programmatically, I think this is the API to go with. And again, as mentioned here, the REST API is actually a successor for the legacy SOAP API. So SOAP API has been served until SSRS 2016. So with 2017, now we have the ability to start utilizing the REST API. Getting back to my slides here. So that's pretty much in a nutshell, like where the REST API comes into picture. So pretty much if you have an existing application like web application or something that you want to utilize it, instead of giving access to the portal, if you want to just embed like, okay, I want to give access to a particular folder and the reports that are placed in a particular folder, now you can just hook up your application using the REST API and connect your reporting services instance, and you can provide access to those folders and reports. Great. So again, the REST API is built using the Open API specification. As I said, like the Swagger specification is also part of the Open API specification. The documentation is actually published on Swagger Hub. So along with the documentation, that you have the ability for invoking each and every endpoint, like to test whether you can successfully able to connect to your reporting services instance and get the corresponding output. So that's a quick way to test using Swagger Hub even before you start building your application and try testing it out. And Swagger Hub also provides an ability for you to generate a library. So if you are building any integrations with your application, either using JavaScript, TypeScript, or C# or Java, so all the Swagger Hub will give you a library that you can generate out of for the API, for the reporting services API. So this is not a specific feature of reporting services. This is a specific feature how Swagger Hub works. So if it is an open API specification, pretty much the client libraries can be generated for these languages from Swagger Hub. So that's something it's worth giving a try if you want to embed your reports programmatically in your applications. Great. So the next feature that we have got currently, that we have got it released as part of Visual Studio 2017, is the MSBuild support. I think a lot of the problems that we used to have before is a lot of organizations have started practicing the DevOps practices, which is around continuous integration and deployment. But when it comes to business intelligence projects, we always had this challenge around okay, how am I going to release my reporting services reports using the continuous delivery or the continuous delivery pipeline, or how am I going to do my SSRS packages or something around the continuous delivery pipeline. I think Microsoft also have started addressing the gaps around the reporting or the BI projects in that space. So pretty much I would say the BI projects, not just reporting services. When it comes to analysis services, reporting services, and the integration services, we always had this limitation around the continuous integration and the deployment pipelines. So with the released version of Visual Studio 2017, which is the latest version, we can get a reporting services project extension. So this is pretty much available in the marketplace. And what it allows us to do is we can just add our MSBuild support as part of our pipeline. So if you go into continuous integration or something, we can just add it as a task saying a reporting services deployment, and we can configure our reports as part of the VSTS pipeline directly. So there is no need or any dependency on, okay, so the server from which you are going to deploy reporting services should have Visual Studio installed. So we don't have that reliance anymore. So now we can just do the reporting services deployments and automate those deployments on servers without the need for Visual Studio installed. So this is a pretty good add-on support that we have received from Microsoft with the SSRS 2017 release, and Visual Studio 2017 is you can download those reporting services extension and pretty much start configuring your deployment pipelines. So if your organizations are using continuous deployment, and if you had been having problems with integrating reporting services, that has been addressed currently with this version of reporting services. Great. So as I said, like we don't have a whole heap of features released, but there are some considerable features that has been released as part of SSRS 2017. So as I mentioned, here is the references section. So if you want to download reporting services and want to give a try, and here's the URL that allows you to download reporting services as a standalone lightweight installer. So you can just install it and try using reporting services. And one thing to keep in mind is as part of this installation, you should have a SQL Server database, because at the end of the day, reporting services require an environment where they can put the report server databases in there. So make sure that you have got SQL services running, or it is available somewhere where you can place the reporting services databases. It's not required as part of the installation of reporting services, but the databases are require our database server is required as part of configuring your reporting services. So even if you don't have a reporting, if you don't have an installed SQL server, you can still go ahead and install reporting services. And if you have a remote SQL server or something, when you come to configuring reporting services, at that time you can point it to your remote SQL server. So that's something to keep in mind. So you don't have a reliance of having a SQL server for installing reporting services. There is no need for that. It's only when it comes to configuration you have a dependency. So some of the SSRS API, the new RESTful API which I have mentioned, there are some API samples that are available in GitHub. So if you are trying to embed the functional API inside your applications, and if you want to looking for some references, it's available under the API samples URL here. So worth giving a try. So we touched upon report viewer for the report viewer for native mode and stuff. So how about SharePoint? Because currently Microsoft are supporting only the native mode with the 2017 reporting services installation. So in that case, the question is more around have they stopped supporting SharePoint? That's not the case. So still there is a report viewer web part for SharePoint, and you can embed that in your SharePoint reports. So it's no longer as you don't need to have a separate SharePoint integrated mode as such, but you will be just having a web part that you can embed in SharePoint with your native mode installation itself. Great, and that is a Microsoft Reporting Services project, as I mentioned. So this is again in the marketplace that you can download, and then you can add it. So this is to facilitate the automatic builds and deployments of reporting services reports without the reliance of Visual Studio being installed. So when I showed the reporting services portal, so as you can see, I have applied a branding. So that is an AdventureWorks branding package. So nothing has changed from a branding perspective since reporting services 2016 to 2017. And if you're interested to just incorporate that branding package, again, that is available on Christopher Finland's blog. So that's where I just downloaded it and configured it. And finally, like if you have any more questions or ideas that you want to provide to Microsoft as part of SSRS 2017, you can still use the ideas.powerbi.com. So the ideas.powerbi.com is not only dedicated just for Power BI ideas. So if you have any reporting services ideas or features that you would like to see in reporting services, pretty much you can submit those ideas using this URL. So the reason I'm pointing out this is like if you are looking for a particular feature that is really important from SSRS perspective, and then as Microsoft have gone to this path, like saying the number of votes they get for a particular feature, then they give importance working on those features. So if you have any new features that you require for SSRS, please post them in this particular URL, and then pretty much the more people vote on those ideas, then it will be it will get addressed by Microsoft. So that's something to keep in mind. So if some feature is not available right now, at least Microsoft will give us an indication whether they are actually working on that, or are they planning to work on that, or whether they are thinking about a replacement product rather than trying to enhance reporting services for that. So it's worth putting those ideas in there if you find a feature that's not available in SSRS. Great. So I think that's pretty much I had or I wanted to cover as part of this session. So I'm happy to take any questions and provide answers for those questions. So as Dan mentioned, these slides will be available, or it's already available as part of the webinar portal information. So yeah, I'm happy to take any more questions around what I have presented.
All right. Thank you so much, Anu. That was great information. And you covered the whole spectrum there, going from the reports and explaining the differences between the different servers and the services, going into the developer area. So that was great. So we have a couple of questions in regards to, you were talking about the download menu in the report portal.
That's correct.
One question is wondering if it's possible if you can redirect the download menu, and the other question is, can you control who can see it and who can't see it?
Great. I think a current feature is more around whether turn off or turn on. So currently I haven't seen any ability like you can control the turn off and turn on using any security groups yet. So I think out of the box what I could see is pretty much a turn on and a turn off feature. So either you turn it on the portal for all the users or you turn it off. So I hope that answers the question. So
Yes. So we have a couple more in regards to the comments now. One was, is it possible that you could set up an email alert when a comment is entered?
good. I think I don't think I have tried that option myself. What I would suggest is I'll just give that a try before I give the answer because I don't want to say no without trying it. So I'll give a try on that answer and probably put an entry on my blog whether that feature is currently supported or not. So what I have tested is around you have the ability to put the comments, attach files, but whether a notification can be sent as part of someone entering the comments, I haven't tested that myself. So I'll give a try and probably I'll post it on my blog.
Sounds great. Another one is, would it be possible then to include the comments into the report as like part of the export?
Okay, so this is including the comments. Again, I have to give a try. Maybe once again, that's something.
Sure. I mean, and this should be possible because obviously the comments are stored in a table within the report server, so it would just be the matter of adding that into your report development. And another one in regards to comments, wondering like when you put a comment on a report, is there somewhere in the comments where it would kind of capture what parameters and stuff were used for the report, or how would someone know what someone was looking at when they posted those comments? I don't know, Anu, we might have lost your audio again.
Sorry,
Oh,
Dan.
there we go.
Can you hear me
Yep,
now?
yep, we
Great.
can hear you.
Sorry, I think what happens is my headphones are just going back to mute when I swap between the slides and the
Oh,
desktop.
okay.
So I just noticed it now. Sorry for that.
No,
So,
that's all right.
okay. So in terms of the command, so in terms of the parameters that they have chosen for the report, currently it is out of the box not supported. But what you can ask your users is, as part of putting their commands, they can also specify the parameters they have selected. So if someone wants to reproduce the same output what they are seeing, or maybe attaching a screenshot, maybe that's the reason they have given the ability to attach a screenshot. So as part of
Great
typing the
idea.
command,
Yep.
they can take a screenshot of that.
All right. Someone has a question about the use of OData. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but could they use OData to access, like say, Microsoft Project Online data?
Yes, they can. So the REST API, which I was talking about, and let me go down to that particular Swagger Hub. It talks about OData already, but whether it's a purest OData or not, that's a question. So I think Microsoft, I mentioned like this API is supporting OData version, so you can build your OData queries to run to that. And in terms of examples, I haven't seen much in that space, but I have seen that they are supporting OData as part of this API.
Perfect. So we have some questions from Bill, and I know Bill had sent us some of these in advance. I don't know if you want to talk about any of these at all, but
I think we can go ahead with that. Yeah.
yeah, sure. Bill's had another question. He was wondering, is there any like a good book or training class possibly that would surround the new SSRS REST API? I know you did have a link for GitHub. Is that a good resource?
Yeah, that's correct. So here is the GitHub API samples. So there is quite a few examples here. So what I'm trying to do is I'm actually going to put a post on integrating this REST API myself with an example. So I'm happy to share that as soon as I complete the blog post. So that will give you an example. So if you're looking for any specific example, feel free to reach me about the scenario you want to see, and I can actually cover it off in a blog post.
Perfect. Another one of his questions was, now the REST API, does that work only with SSRS report server or with only Power BI report server, or does it work for both?
Great. So this is currently for reporting services. So this API currently hooks up into reporting services. And I think for Power BI, they have got a separate API to tackle for the Power BI stuff. So this is pretty much for reporting services only.
Okay. And then he was wondering, with WinForms and traditional ASP.NET, you would always use the Microsoft Report Viewer control to integrate
That's correct.
reports into the application. Now, is there anything that you would suggest or have feedback on about with ASP.NET Core?
Okay, so I'm currently actually doing some work for a client, and so the application is pretty much as a PaaS solution, platform as a service, and because it was a greenfield, it wasn't a migrated project or something, so it was easy for us to go down the path of let us use a Power BI and use the Power BI embedded for operational reporting purposes. But I understand that like a lot of organizations would have already invested in applications using ASP.NET Web Forms, and you would have used the report viewer control. So currently, I think the report viewer control, even with the SSRS 2017, it doesn't support your MVC or your core functionality. But what I have noticed is there is a person who has actually utilized the SOAP web service, and he has built the functionality of hooking reporting services reports into both the .NET Core as well as in MVC. So if you can, I'll just post this URL. So this guy has gone and actually get rid of, because they wanted to do an upgrade of their web forms into MVC site. And because there is no out of the box report viewer control that you have got for MVC, probably he has ported it, he has built the control, and there is a NuGet pack library available that you can utilize it for that. And he also gone to the next step of taking that NuGet package and support it for .NET Core version also. I'm happy to share this URL. And again, this is not currently out of the box from Microsoft, and this is supported by some developer here. So you need to use some code with caution, because you need to think about ongoing maintenance and support. But it's worth giving a try if you have a need that you have to go down utilizing .NET Core or something. But from a Microsoft perspective, are they going to focus on supporting MVC and .NET Core for the report viewer control? They are saying like there is some plans to do that, but I haven't seen any elaborative deadlines or something around when they will be releasing that functionality, given already they have the ability for Power BI to be embedded in .NET Core as well as MVC projects. I don't know how much emphasis will be there in trying to do the reporting services at this point. But I think in their forums and stuff, where for the questions people have asked, the response is pretty much around they are planning to do that, but we don't have a clear schedule around when are they planning to do that. So that is something worth raising as part of the Power BI ideas URL I was mentioning, because the more number of votes gets for that, then probably they may work on this feature, because that gives the visibility. A lot of people in the community really require that feature. But I'll share this URL.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, we had a couple of people wondering about the MVC support for that. Great. That's outstanding. Okay, we have a couple of questions in regards to the report builder. So with Reporting Services 2017, is there still a report builder?
That's correct. There is still a report builder available, but in terms of any enhancements or anything, nothing as such as done as part of the report builder. It's pretty much what we have seen in 2016.
And then is there a specific version that you would need for that? I mean, could they use an older version, say the one with 2016, if they still have that, to create 2017 reports?
Yes, I think as such with the 2017, they haven't changed any of the formats of the reports or anything. Yes, the answer is yes, you can use it.
Okay, and then we have with the removal of SharePoint integrated mode, how does this impact data alert capability?
Great. So with the removal of the SharePoint integrated mode around the data alerts from SharePoint, so I think the report viewer control is still there. Like for instance, you can embed that web part. I think the alerts I need to check that whether they are still, you can use the same subscriptions within the portal to trigger that. So I don't have a straightforward answer for that yet, but I'll check that and get back to you on my blog.
Sure. We had another one in regards to Power BI. Let me find it here. Oh, here we go. Someone's wondering, can we edit Power BI reports in reporting services like we can do with the Power BI service?
Okay, so as I said with the reporting services and Power BI integration, so if I can show quickly here, and that's the reason I have got a single Power BI report. As soon as I invoke Power BI, so I have just uploaded a Power BI report here. So as soon as you try to open the Power BI report, it says like, do you want to open the PBIX file? So if you want to open this, pretty much there is a reliance, like you need to have Power BI desktop installed. And if you have the desktop installed, you will be able to open it. Otherwise, you won't be able to open that. So with SSRS, this is what the limitation that we have got. So you need to have the desktop installed. Sorry, Dan, like, can you repeat the question again for me?
Yep. So can they edit a Power BI report from the report server like they can do from the Power BI service?
Great. So the answer is no, because as I said, when you open the report, it opens in Power BI desktop. You can still make the changes in your Power BI desktop, but what you need to do is you need to update your reports in the SSRS portal again.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. Okay, with SQL Server support in Linux now, will SSRS also be available in Linux?
Great. I'm waiting for the marathon next week because I myself haven't got my hands on with the SQL Server on Linux yet. So the short answer is no, I don't know the answer, but I think we may get some answers as part of the BI marathon next week.
Yes, great. Good pitch for the marathon next week. All right.
Yeah.
Difference between Power BI Report Server and SSRS 2017. I think you had a slide on that
That's
covered all the
correct. So there is
differences.
a clear slide. I think the key difference there, as I mentioned, is with Power BI Report Server, you get all the features that you can get out of SSRS. In addition to that, the additional feature you will be getting with the Power BI Report Server is the ability to serve the Power BI reports within the browser. So you don't need a Power BI desktop installation. But with SSRS, if you want to open Power BI reports, there is a need that the client desktop should have Power BI desktop installed in there. So that's the key difference to understand it. And if you want to support Power BI reports going forward for as part of your SSRS portal, start thinking about upgrading to Power BI Server, because that has got the best of both the worlds, and it will have all the features you have got in SSRS along with the Power BI features. But if you're not going down the Power BI path, and if you want to just support your paginated reports and mobile reports, you can still stay with SSRS itself. And the migration path is also available as part of Microsoft. So if you are thinking about moving from SSRS to Power BI server, because both are on-premises solutions, there is a migration path. You can upgrade your reports from here to the Power BI server quite easily.
Okay, we have one more in regards to authentication. So SSRS support, does it support anything other than authentication like Windows? What other types of authentication can you use?
I think it's only Windows at this point. I don't think like it supports other authentication like OAuth, or if I understand it is around OAuth or other types of authentication currently we have got. It's just a standard Windows integrated authentication. That's what it is supporting.
Yeah, that's as far as I know as well. Yeah, someone said that SQL Server on Linux does not support reporting services as of now. Only integration services is supported. So yeah, I don't think it supports SSRS or analysis services, and I know it doesn't support machine learning. So
Great, thanks for that. I
all
learned
right.
something too.
All right, I think that's all of our questions right now. Wow, this was a great overview of all the new features and capabilities and great explanation between the different services. Outstanding. I love hearing more on the developer side. I don't quite get into that nitty-gritty at times, so it's great to see all the stuff that's changed with that and the REST API. I want to thank you so much, Anu, for taking the time and also rescheduling with us. I completely apologize for the audio technical difficulties last week. But thanks so much for sharing all your knowledge. It's greatly appreciated. The community loves it. Do you have any parting words or advice,
Yeah.
words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us?
Sure, Dan, and thanks for you, Dan, personally, and for giving the opportunity, and along with PASS, and for giving me the opportunity to share my knowledge. And as I mentioned, there are a couple of questions where I couldn't answer around SharePoint and some examples for the REST API. I'll try and post some blog posts on my blog, so I'll also notify you, Dan, like once I have got the blog post published, so you can send an email to the community to check my blog, or if you can periodically check that, you will find those examples available in a week or so. And so that's mainly around that. And once again, it's a good audience, and it was a really interesting questions. And thanks for giving me the opportunity.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It was a great presentation, as always. And I want to remind you, make sure when you close out today to complete that survey, provide us feedback for the speaker as well as our virtual group. Let us know if you're interested in speaking, and also let us know what other topics you'd be interested in the future. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day, and thank you so much for joining us. Until next time.
Thanks, Jen.